Dust shimmered above the training range under the desert sun. Brass casings littered the ground, glinting like gold flakes among the sand. The smell of cordite hung heavy in the air. Rows of Navy SEALs had been shooting all morning, tight groups, long-range bursts, and the constant bark of gunfire echoing off the canyon walls. At the far end of the line, a woman in plain fatigues was working quietly, stapling fresh targets and resetting stands. Her cap was pulled low, her sleeves rolled, revealing forearms marked with faint scars and sunburn. She moved with precision, as if she'd done this 1,000 times. To the SEALs watching from the shade, she was just the range tech, the one responsible for keeping their targets fresh. "Hey, range girl," one of the younger SEALs called out, half teasing, half curious. "You missed one on lane 7. She turned briefly, gave a short nod, and went back to work. No words, just action. Chief Petty Officer Dalton, a grizzled instructor with 20 years in the teams, squinted at her through his sunglasses. "She's quiet," he muttered to his buddy, Petty Officer Cruz. "Moves like she's done more than paper duty." Cruz laughed. "Come on, Chief, probably just some base assistant. You think she's ever fired one of these?" He patted his M110 sniper rifle with a smug grin. "We've been missing half our shots at 1,500 yards. No way she's even held something like this." Dalton said nothing. He just watched as the woman finished the lane, then knelt to check the wind flag out of habit, something most of the younger SEALs hadn't even done all morning. When she came back toward the firing line, carrying her stapler and fresh paper, Cruz lifted his rifle. "Hey, target lady, want to give it a try? Since you're out here doing all the work, might as well have some fun." The laughter that followed was good-natured but edged with challenge. She paused, brushed sand off her gloves, and looked at the weapon. Her eyes, calm, gray, assessing, took in the rifle, the setup, and the distance. "What's the range?" she asked quietly. 1,500, Cruz said, still smirking. "We've got a crosswind out there, about 15 knots from west. You'll probably hit the dirt before the target." Dalton frowned, now interested. He handed her his spotting scope. "You know what you're doing." She didn't answer. Instead, she sat down in the dirt, adjusted the bipod, and laid prone behind the rifle. Her form was textbook, smooth, deliberate, zero hesitation. One by one, the SEALs stopped talking. She adjusted the cheek rest, checked the scope, made a quick wind call under her breath, 15 left, slight mirage drift, and exhaled. The first shot broke. A single, clean crack. Impact, Dalton muttered into his scope, surprise flashing in his tone. Center hit. 1,500 yards. The laughter stopped entirely. She adjusted again, made 2 quick shots back to back. Crack, crack, 2 more, Dalton said slowly. Both in the bull ring. He looked at Cruz, whose mouth had dropped open. "Son, she just grouped under 4 inches at 1,500. Cruz stammered, That's not possible. Not on the first shots." The woman stood, ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and set the rifle back on the mat with careful respect. "Your zero's good," she said simply. "You just overcompensate for wind." Dalton rose, studying her more closely now. "You military?" She hesitated a fraction of a second. Used to be what?" Cruz asked, now more curious than defensive. Her gaze met his, calm but unreadable. "Sniper instructor." A silence spread like a wave. Dalton blinked. "You trained snipers?" She gave a faint, almost reluctant smile. "Something like that." One of the younger SEALs, still not believing, jogged downrange to check the target. When he came back, he held up the paper, riddled with 3 perfect holes clustered dead center. "No way," he breathed. "That's a half MOA at 1,500. Dalton exhaled a low whistle. "Who the hell are you, lady?" She gave a modest shrug. "Just replacing targets." That was when a vehicle rolled up, a Humvee with a base emblem on the side. The driver hopped out, saluted her sharply, and said, "Major, your briefing's been moved up." "The colonel's waiting." Every SEAL froze. Cruz blinked. "Major." Dalton straightened instinctively. "Your Air Force." She nodded once. "A-10 Division, here for Joint Ground Support Coordination." She glanced toward the Humvee, then back at the stunned group. "Didn't mean to interrupt your training." Dalton's jaw tightened in something between awe and respect. "No, ma'am," he said quietly. "You didn't interrupt it, you improved it." As she walked away, the young SEAL who had laughed earlier whispered, Did we just get schooled by a pilot?" Dalton smiled faintly. "Not just any pilot. That's the kind that flies low enough to count your bullets mid-run. Cruz stared down at his rifle. Guess I'll be checking my wind from now on. From the Humvee, the Major glanced back once. The sun hit her name patch, Maj. Reese, before she disappeared down the dusty road, leaving behind a row of SEALs who suddenly felt like recruits again. And in the silence that followed, Dalton chuckled under his breath. Next time you think someone's just replacing targets, remember this: some legends don't wear rank where you can see it. Hours later, the same SEAL team sat in a briefing room, still half stunned by the morning's revelation. Maps were spread across the table, and drone feeds flickered on the big screen. They were preparing for a live-fire joint exercise with air support, an A-10 flight leading the attack run. Chief Dalton leaned forward, coffee forgotten. "All right, who's our air contact?" he asked. The operations officer smirked. "You'll like this one, Chief. Callsign Valkyrie. She's the lead pilot for today's run." Dalton's brow furrowed. The name rang a bell, but before he could ask, the door opened, and Major Reese stepped in, now in full flight suit. Her hair was tied back, her Rankin wings gleaming under the harsh lights. Every SEAL in the room straightened instinctively. Cruz nearly spilled his drink. "Major Reese will coordinate your forward mark and strike zones," the ops officer said. "She'll be flying the A-10s. Reese gave a curt nod. "Gentlemen, I've reviewed your target list. Your ground assault will begin after my first pass. Expect heavy suppression fire, close range." Cruz blinked. "Close range? How close are we talking?" She looked at him evenly. "Within 40 meters. 40, Dalton said, eyebrows rising. "That's nearly skimming our helmets." "That's the point," she replied calmly. "You call for danger close, you'll get danger close." Her tone left no room for argument. Minutes later, on the range, the SEALs waited in their vehicles as the rumble of turbines echoed overhead. The Warthog appeared, gray, low, slow, and impossibly steady, banking hard over the desert ridge. Cruz gripped his headset. "Valkyrie, this is Bravo 1. Targets marked. East Sector, Grid 17 Alpha." Her voice came through the comms, cool and composed. "Copy, Bravo 1. I have eyes. Beginning run." Dalton looked up, expecting a standard approach, but what he saw froze him. The A-10 dropped to treetop height, roaring through the canyon so low the sand swirled in its wake. She wasn't flying, she was slicing the sky open. Then came the growl of the GAU-8 cannon. BRRRRT. In a heartbeat, the target zone erupted in dust and flame. When the smoke cleared, the simulated enemy convoy was shredded to ribbons. "Impact confirmed," Dalton said quietly, awe in his voice. "Perfect alignment." Cruz exhaled a shaky laugh. "Guess she flies the way she shoots." Reese's voice crackled through the comm again. "Targets neutralized. Bravo 1, your turn. Try to keep up." Dalton smiled under his headset. "Roger that, Valkyrie. Lead the way." As the A-10 banked off into the blazing horizon, every SEAL on the ground finally understood. The woman who had once been just replacing targets was the one defining them.